Alrighty, welcome back to the weight room. This is going to be a great episode. So just stay tuned, learn something, and proceed. If you just want to introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do, kind of that whole
Okay.
setup.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, my name is Lesley. I go by Lesley Noelle Fit on Instagram, and I have three kids. They're a little older now, so it makes it easier to, get my fitness time in. And I really commend moms who are just starting out with babies and toddlers because that can be a little bit of a struggle to find the childcare and the resources needed to get started on their fitness journey. But been married for 20 years to my high school sweetheart. He was
Congratulations.
actually, thank you, thanks. Yeah, he was actually in college when we met. So I was 17, senior in high school. Um, got married, 4 years after we met, and started a family not too long after that. And here we are. I have my degree in marketing and have used it off and on through the years, mostly part time promotional work, mainly automotive in the past couple of years. So,
What kind of pushed you into marketing initially?
I don't know. I think in my blood a little bit.
Really?
My parents were entrepreneurs, started up their own kind of advertising grocery shopping list, they called it. And my dad had his own business, marketing business. And so I kind of grew up around that and thought, oh, this is interesting. I thought, I'm going to be a career marketing woman and go work in an ad agency and, kind of hone in on that creative side of me. I like to come up with little slogans and
Yeah.
company names, and I thought this would be fun. And kind of landed in ASU's WP Carey School of Business is what it came to be known as, and worked my way through night school actually because, as I mentioned, I married my high school sweetheart, and we got married while I was in college. So I popped out a kid too while
Gotcha.
I attended college. So I took one semester off to do that and went to night school and
What kind of got
mm-hmm,
you off that path onto something else?
kids.
Kids.
I have to say, my one passion is in life is, raising kids who are disciplined and, have a strong family background. My family was a little dysfunctional growing up, so I kind of, wanted to make sure I was at home providing the structure that they need to be responsible adults. And, that trumped my career for several years while I stayed home with them. So I was working full time when I
Gotcha.
had my first and, graduated college and decided I'm going to quit my job and stay home. And luckily my husband, enabled us to do that with his career. It just kind of got off, my goal mindset, but it was fine. I'm happy with how they're turning out so far. And I think I've done my job well thus far. So, getting back into my career a little bit now, has been rewarding, frustrating now with, the whole COVID situation because that's
Right.
been a real kick in my industry. So, just trying to see what happens next.
Is that a reason
Uh-huh.
at all that you started into the fitness world to kind of work on yourself a little bit while you could, or what started you down that road?
Well, there were a couple things that kind of led into that. One, this is gonna sound weird, but I never really had to work out. I never really got into fitness. In my college years and my teen years, I was always skinny. Um, and I use that in a little bit of a negative way because I wasn't, I wouldn't say I was healthy. I was just skinny because that was what was in my genes.
Right.
And, I got made fun of in high school and, really kind of broke into my psyche a little bit because, you know, who likes to be made fun of.
Exactly,
But
yeah. It's a very
yeah,
vulnerable time.
right. And, I was accused of having an eating disorder when I didn't, which was really frustrating.
Right.
But I think, and it's funny, I was listening to you and Holly go on, and Holly is actually my youngest daughter's name, which is funny. My brother actually is 6 years older than me, and he tried to get me into fitness. He was, at 17 getting into the bodybuilding and stuff, and he's trying to get me into the gym. He got me a gym membership. He's like, Lesley, come with me, let's lift some weights,
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding me? No, I don't want to do that. That's, this is not important to me right now. I was fine. And then I had my first kid, and it wasn't bothered by any weight gain. I actually, this is kind of a funny thing, but breastfeeding actually burns lots of calories. So, lost the weight very quickly after having my first, and it still wasn't a concern. I was just as skinny as I was before I had kids. So, then I had my second, and he weighed nearly 9 pounds when he was born. And on my small frame, which was about 105 pounds at the time, before I got pregnant with him, it really took a toll on my body to have such a large baby. And even more so carrying him around in his little carrier or on my hip afterwards, actually gave me some back issues. And so I went through physical therapy. I went to a physiatrist. I went through epidural injections. I went to a chiropractor. I was having all sorts of back issues, and came to realize that it was really a core strength problem, and started trying to develop my core. And so that got me into, okay, now I'm doing some exercises, and oh, wait a minute, I feel pretty good about this. And so it just kind of, started to roll one thing into another. And, and then one day I just decided, like Forrest Gump, I'm going to go running. And I just walked out my door, put on my running shoes, and went for a little run. And I'm like, okay, that felt good. And I think even at that point, it wasn't about making physical changes. It was how I felt afterwards. And the endorphin high that I got from it was good for me mentally, because I have suffered in the past from depression and anxiety. And having that rush of endorphins was really what got me started on the kick of continuing the fitness journey, and not so much for the physical aspect.
So it's almost like gateway drug into the next stage.
Right.
What got you into competing?
I think it was something that I was curious about. I'd seen, on some reality TV shows, some of the women go through this bikini competition stuff. And I'm like, what is this stuff? I was completely green to it. Didn't even really know it existed. And I thought, well, I've always been a little bit of an exhibitionist. Kind of thrive on some attention. And so I thought, well, I get to put on a bikini and go up on stage and kind of show off a little bit. And so, incidentally, I was going to my esthetician here in California. She was opening a gym with a partner. And she said, I actually have and she used to compete herself. And so I started talking to her about it a little bit. And she said, I have a trainer who's perfect for you. You should get with her, and she can fill you in on everything, because she's competed as well. And so that just kind of got my interest peaked, and I met with the trainer and just started learning from there. And ever since, it's been 2 years, it's been a learning process. And, I've done, 4 shows now, and scheduled to do my next in 4 weeks. So it is a little bit of an addiction, I think, once you get up there and get, the nervousness worked out. And
right.
I mean, not that you don't get nervous each time, but it is a little bit of a adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
So, and it keeps me motivated. And that's the main thing, is it keeps me motivated to continue to improve and to continue to try to see what I can do next, how I can compare myself to myself. You know what I mean? And I think some people do tend to get caught up on, oh, well, how does this girl look, or how does this person look? And my glutes aren't looking like that. And it's not, you can't get caught up on the comparison from one competitor to the next. It has to be, to sound cliche, a me versus me thing, because if you'll drive yourself crazy otherwise.
How long did it take you to when you initially said I want to do it? How long between then and then did you decide to actually say I'm going to compete in this?
It wasn't very long. January 2018 is when I kind of pulled the trigger and said I want to compete. And my trainer's like, okay, let's do it. Let's start building. And I went on a pretty aggressive, what they call a bulk phase, where she put me on basically a 3,000 calorie diet.
Yeah. For a lot of people, that's scary.
It was very scary. And especially when I started to see the rolls develop on my stomach and the cellulite on, the backs of my legs, things that I had never seen before on my body, right? It was a little bit of a freak out. Like, okay, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm eating to the point where can physically no longer eat. It was definitely a good learning experience in that, one, I will probably never go through a crazy bulk like that again. But two, it taught me that even in my 40s now, I cringe at that, I discovered that I could take the weight back off. And I think that was the scariest part, because we all hear your metabolism starts to slow down as you age, and, it's harder to lose weight. And it was refreshing to see that I could get it back off. And even more so the next season. So even more so last year, I actually switched to a team format. So I have a different coach, and there's a bunch of us girls who are on the same team, and it's very supportive. And Team Flex, it's awesome. It's an awesome team to be on. And it was a different approach to competing, which there's several thought processes out there as far as, cutting water and cutting sodium and doing this kind of thing, or taking performance enhancing drugs, which I will never do. I mean, I like to be, natural, hardly even any supplements really, other than my pre-workout and some protein.
I think when you get in it for the health, starting off with a healthy mindset,
right?
I think it's harder to do when you get into it with the goal of health in mind, and you're doing it as a part of a challenge. I think it's easier to stay away from that kind of thing.
Certainly. And I think there are some people that, if they want their body to look a certain way, and that's what's important to them, and more power to them if that's how they're into it. But from a personal aspect, you're right. I was health focused. I am health focused. I want to be as healthy as I can be. And if, it comes out looking physically pretty good too, I am all for that.
Right. Who taught you kind of posing and kind of that side of everything?
She did that as well, which I'm very grateful for. I actually, one of the things she always told me is that I kind of have a natural ability to have a better stage presence, which is good. So that came a little bit more naturally for me personally, which was, again, like Forrest Gump would say, one less thing. Of course, there's always tweaking and honing and doing, little changes here and there. And I do still look back at some of my very first videos that she made of me, doing the stage walk and the posing, and I cringe like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I think that just comes with time as well, and proper coaching. And I think I've been lucky enough to have that,
Just find somebody that knows what they're doing, even if it's not the most walked path.
Right. And there's so many great people out there too. I mean, it comes down really to a Google search really in your area, or going, based on recommendations and referrals. And, now as part of my team, we have different posing coaches I could reach out to. And I actually haven't felt the need to really. And they're invaluable. I mean, to many members of my team who use them, and they're awesome. I haven't done that personally myself. I kind of feel like I know what I'm doing when it comes to that, but I think everybody could also use a little help here and there, and maybe I will at some point reach out, but I'll get another show under my belt, see what the judge feedback says.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's a good thing to not try to change too much too quick. Definitely get that feedback.
Yeah, you can get too many cooks in the kitchen at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely. Too many people in your ear, and you're doing something that's just like, what am I even doing anymore?
Exactly.
So does your competition, is that your main motivation to train, or is it something else?
I think at this point it is. I mean, I'll be honest, it is for now. I mean, seeing as I'm 4 weeks out of a competition, it's hard to, I've got my blinders on, and so that's going to be my answer presently. But I do go back to the mental aspect as well. And I know even taking my rest day, I mean, I get one rest day a week right now. And, when I'm in off season, it's two. And definitely if I skip workouts, which I do, I mean, I'm not perfect.
Right.
I'll skip them every so often. It doesn't happen often, but, once in a blue moon, I'll skip one, and I feel it mentally. And it's, I get kind of just down, like I don't have any motivation. And that's not to say I have motivation every single day to get up and go to the gym. Yesterday, I struggled all day long and didn't go until 7 p.m. at night. And that's not like me at all,
Right.
So I think the mental aspect is huge for me. I mean, my dad was medically bipolar, manic depressive is what they called it back then. And I think I might struggle with some of those same things. And I think keeping up the fitness and moving my body is something good to do, every day for the most part, just for that aspect. So there is that motivation there as well.
Yeah, the mental side of getting a good exercise session in, even if it's not like a structured workout, just getting physically active is crazy. And I think a lot of people overlook that when they think about setting a goal. It's all like physical appearance or whatever, instead of the deeper things that actually can happen whenever you start getting into a good routine of just being active.
Exactly. No, it's totally the benefits there are exponential.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Mental, physical, just staying on that healthy path is so important, and there's just a lot of different things that can benefit. And I know we've talked about a lot of that stuff on the podcast so far, but there's a lot more to come for those listening that stay listening, and we're just going to keep kind of trying to hammer that home.
Yeah. So, I love it. It's so important right now, especially.
Yeah. So what's the best thing that you take away from competing? Is it the actual competition? Is it the feeling of getting it and doing it, getting over with? Is it kind of what is it? Is it the prep?
I think it's a feeling of accomplishment. It's, getting past my fears of, you're going into a sport that is subjective, and it's, you have to remember that first and foremost, or else, you're never going to make it, because
yeah, that's it.
You don't, there's guidelines, but you never really know exactly what those judges on that day are looking for at that show.
Yeah.
Last season I competed in 3 shows, and, I placed top 5 in the first 2 and placed dead last in the third one.
Yeah,
And
it's not just shooting a ball in a basket, There's
exactly. It's, you just never know. And, I thought for my last show of the season last year that I brought my best, what we call the package. I brought my best package to stage. I was the leanest I had been. I thought my suit was great. My hair was great. My makeup was great. And they weren't feeling it. And it's like, but for me, that attitude of having, okay, I feel really good about myself.
right.
You have to, take the hit and move on and know that you did the best that you could and you feel the best that you felt. And I think it's just achieving that and bettering yourself each time that is the most rewarding for me, to see how far I've come each time I compete.
Right.
And, to have fun with it too. Like, okay, am I going to wear my hair curled? What suit color am I going to wear this time? I mean, it's something fun. It's something to stay focused on.
Is that something that
it's a great hobby.
Is that something that you specifically control or pick, or is that something that kind of the coaches say, hey, this is what we should go with? Or is it kind of a combined effort?
Every team, every competitor is different. I do kind of run, certain things by my coach, but just merely for an opinion. He's very much of the mindset, like whatever you're going to be comfortable in. He did tell me this last time though. He's been pretty adamant on me wearing my hair with it naturally curly, which I kind of don't typically wear it that way. But he saw my check-in photos once when I had it like that, and he's like, why didn't you tell me you had these natural curls? You got to rock that on stage. You got to do that. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He's like, the judges really like to see, when competitors can rock their natural style, you should do it. Try it out. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it. He doesn't push me into any sort of color, he's very good and like, whatever makes you most comfortable.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, a very good point I didn't even think about was, you're gonna perform best whenever you feel the best about yourself, and that's definitely whenever you're comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a specific memory? I mean, it's probably not the top 5 finish and then the dead last finish. That's very that's just a crazy thing. But do you have like a specific memory that's the best whenever you think about your competition so far?
Oh gosh, when you say the best memory, like it's just the exhilaration of getting up there and the culmination of your work being displayed is satisfying. The memory, though, that stands out the most, and I can't say it's the best memory. It's an interesting memory. My first show I competed in, they do prejudging and then they do finals. And during prejudging, you can pretty much ascertain where you're going to land for finals, pretty much. And I competed in two categories, and one was my master's. It was 35 plus at the time, and I think there were 8 girls in my group, and I could tell on prejudging that I was probably going to be around 6. Which for my first show was actually, I felt pretty good about that. I mean, whatever. I'm not going to have a top 5. I didn't have enough muscle mass, and I knew it. And but then in the open group, there were probably about 16 girls competing, and I came in. I was thinking I was coming in middle of the group, so 8 probably, and felt even better about that because I'm like, oh, this is a bigger group. I'm coming in middle, and got to finals that night and got called up on stage, and they're going through who's first and second, and they get down to the top placement for the open group and called out number 62, Lesley. And I'm like, what? And I start to take a step forward, like, what is going on? And they're like, oh no, we misread that. Sorry.
Oh my God, no.
Like, oh, so embarrassing. But I mean, you asked what my best memory is, and I think I can actually look back at that and think I learned from that. I was embarrassed, but you think, what's the worst thing that could happen? And that really was probably the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
And I got through it. And yeah, I was walked off stage and I was frustrated and I took my fake lashes off and like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But looking back on that, to get through one of the most embarrassing things that could happen on stage in front of everybody and make it through and be okay and kind of, get a little bit thicker skin from it, I actually take that away as a good memory now.
Yeah. It's funny how those
twisted
can...
as that sounds.
Yeah. It's funny because that's often, our best memory or the memories that we kind of think about are, as a kid or sometimes when we got in trouble and now we look back and it's like so funny and can't believe that happened and we did this and stuff like that at the time is like it's not something that you're happy about.
Like, but cringy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. So what's your least favorite part about competing, whether that's for you personally or just about the sport as a whole?
I think in the competition realm, I guess, that I compete in, there's several natural competitions out there where, they blood test and they do a lie detector to see if you're on any performance enhancing drugs. And, there's things that are obviously banned that you can't take. There's those kind of shows. And then there's NPC, which basically anything goes. And I like the NPC posing. I like the judges, the aspects, everything, but I'm up against people who could be using anything.
Right.
And I think that's where it gets a little frustrating for me is that, I don't feel like the playing ground is level.
Right.
And that's where I go back to, this is a me versus me thing. This is not about, am I coming in first?
Right.
And that's a really hard aspect to get past because you think, well, the main goal in competing is to be number one. And yes, I do try to maintain that mindset as well, with the understanding that if it doesn't happen, I still did the best I could do. Right. And I'm still up against me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. You can only go in there and train hard and eat right and get your rest and recovery. And you can only do what you can do. If other people are willing to go a different route and a different step, then that's not really up to you.
Right.
It's almost a more accurate representation of kind of how life goes. We're not.
It's true.
We're not all on equal playing fields, but we can all kind of start somewhere and try to improve to the best of our ability.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about how motivated are you
right.
to do what you need to do, no matter what what life presents to you. So I completely agree.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson to take away for anybody in the sport or anybody just that wants to go out and work out and train, to not compare yourself to people on Instagram or people you see in the gym or whatever.
Oh, yes, and certainly not on Instagram. I mean, there's so many, filters and photoshopped and, it's just, you got to base your opinions on what people really look like in the real world, and every body is different.
Absolutely.
Everybody has their own struggles and their own, setbacks and their own challenges. And so Got to
Yep.
remember that.
Yeah, everybody's genetics are just so different, and
Mhm.
it's gonna make a big difference because a lot of people want to look like that person, so they start doing their workout, but don't have the same
Right.
genetics or starting
Right.
point or anything. So it ends up getting to a place where they think that nothing's gonna work, and it's just not a great mindset to go in it with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what's I think that's a really good lesson. But what's one lesson you've learned from your training and your competing?
Oh gosh, that it it's on you. You know, it's on me every single day. It's not my coach making me do something. It's not, you know, my husband motivating me to do something. It all comes down to me and my choices and, you know, how I choose to go about my day. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of people are, you know, told there's a magic pill you can take to make you lose weight, or there's an easy workout you can do. Well, nothing about this is easy.
Yeah, that's it.
And if it is easy, then it's too good to be true.
Yep.
So you you are responsible for the decisions that you make and your priorities that you put in place. And I think that's my takeaway is that I can't rely on somebody else to do my training or push me to do my training. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people would look on my coach lives in Las Vegas. He's not there hovering over me in the gym telling me to do one more rep, you know?
Right.
And I think a lot of people would see that as kind of a negative drawback about, you know, what's known as online coach, you know,
Right.
online based training for coaches is that, you know, I don't have somebody there to push me in the gym. Well, you got to push yourself.
Right. Yeah, it builds more than just your workout. It builds kind of your character and your
It builds the character. Yeah, totally.
Do you think that your life would look a lot different or any different or not at all based on if you didn't decide to start training and didn't decide to start competing?
Oh yeah. I mean, I actually, you know how they do life insurance type of physicals.
Right. Yeah.
We were applying for some life insurance several years ago, and we still lived in Arizona, which was it's probably been about 12 or 13 years ago now. So I was younger. I was in my early 30s, maybe even late 20s, and had the guy come over to do a physical, and my heart rate was really high, and like resting heart rate was like 90. It was like a rabbit.
Right.
And they gave me a higher premium because they said that's not, you know, that's not healthy. And I'm looking at myself at 105 pounds thinking, well, I'm skinny.
Right.
But I wasn't healthy. And I think with the history that's in my family, my dad was, you know, not only bipolar, but he was a type 2 diabetic. He was what the doctors called morbidly obese. He, you know, had high blood pressure, high cholesterol runs in my family, negative health things that, you know, run in my family that I think if I didn't start to get myself on track physically, I could definitely be a victim of at this point, you know, and
Yeah.
I do. And all that being said, I actually do have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's. So it's where your body attacks your thyroid. And I was diagnosed with that September 2018. So even, you know, going through this fitness journey that I've gone through, there are other things that can start to take negative effects. And then doing my research and learning about, okay, what do I need to do other than just being on a medicine regime for this Hashimoto's? What can I do that
Right.
will help my body fix itself or at least deal with this? And, you know, going on a gluten-free diet was the resounding theme that, you know, I needed to start to adhere to. And and really just paying attention to what foods are inflammatory and, what's going to send my body into this thyroid response. And so I think being on the fitness journey already, it prepared me to deal with that diagnosis and to just up my game,
Yeah.
And I think I would be in a far different place. I mean, I'd probably just be reliant on the drug to take care of me and, help my thyroid and, probably be in a far worse place with all the other family health history going on. So, yes, it has changed my life.
Wow, that's crazy to hear, but that's really kind of an inspiration and motivation to a lot of people out there that have either family history or going through something now that, you can use exercise and you can use diet as a prescription. Right. It can be your medicine. Yes. It can, now you might obviously have, like you need some medication for another thing, but you can use these things to stop, to kind of delay, to just make your overall body work a little bit better, a little bit smoother. And I think that's one thing we forget.
Oh, I totally believe food is medicine, and it can be used to your detriment or to your advantage. It's not to say that there shouldn't be balance.
Exactly.
Too, in which I totally, my coach is a big believer in flexible dieting, and that's where I kind of got stuck, with my first trainer, is that, and granted to her, benefit, she did try to get me to start tracking my macros and be more flexible, but I wanted a set meal plan, and that led to some mental dysfunction for me because, eating chicken, rice, and asparagus at every single meal is just, being a sugar addict that I am, was not making me there was no balance there. It wasn't making me mentally happy. And so now being, able to track my own meals and track my own macros and flexible dieting and, being able to fit in a brownie gluten-free if I want to, during the day, will make me a far happier person. Just ask my husband. But yeah, it is. I think there is a balance, and I do try to adhere to the 80-20 rule, 80% nutrient dense foods throughout the day with a little, fun stuff on the side. I particularly like Lucky Charms, but
there you go.
I mean, I think there is a balance there. And once you figure that out, you'll be a happy person.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people get stuck in the one, either the 100-0, either whether that be one way or the other. And when they want to make a change, a lot of people don't know absolutely anything when they start out. And they go to look for somebody and they say, here's what you should eat. And they do it, and then they get burnt out, and it doesn't last long enough. But
it doesn't.
But now I think some people too are adverse to tracking their calories and stuff like that. But I think just education,
It is, yeah. And it's a learning curve, and it definitely is. It's intimidating at first, and I totally understand that. But I can also say that once you've done it for a week, just a week, and I tell, my advice to people, and first off, I tell them I'm not a personal trainer. I'm not certified in any way. All I can tell you is what's worked for me. But just start by, I use my Fitness Pal. Just start by tracking what you're eating. Don't even have a goal in mind.
Right. Just don't make a change.
For the first week, just put in what you're eating every day. Yep. Every single thing that goes into your mouth, put in my Fitness Pal and just see where you're at. And I bet you your results are going to be pretty eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
I really enjoy the My Fitness Pal app as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very user-friendly. It's, there's, you can find anything in there.
Yeah, you can.
And if you can't, you can put it in.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of people kind of are adverse to that idea because and maybe it's down to that they don't want to know what they're eating and how it
It's
kind of
true.
affects them.
Yeah. Blissfully unaware.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to not know than it is to know. A lot less stress and stuff. But
It is.
but over the long term, it pays to know and to be aware and be educated.
Right. Right. I mean, as a mother, it's nice to see, and I do point out to my kids, this is not something to focus on at your age. You're a child, but
Right.
They do show interest, which is good, and to get them thinking, because these are things that I wish I had known
Right.
as a kid or a teenager. Like, okay, milk is maybe going to inflame my body a little bit, or
Right.
maybe that's leading to my breakouts. Maybe
Yeah.
just knowing these little things, the different fats and what fat is good for you. And I mean, I think it's good that my kids are seeing this with me being there to tell them it's not something to focus on right now.
Right.
But just know this is out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wish that it was some kind of mandatory thing to where, it was a yearly class about diet and how it affects your body and what you put in it.
Yes.
To me, I think that would be so beneficial to our society if we could just continuously educate our children on food and on what's good and bad, and not necessarily to go all in on one or the other.
Yeah, because what do they see constantly? They see, sugary cereal, like Lucky Charms, constantly. I mean, we feed our kids a diet of chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, and that's not, we need to be focused on a wholer nutrition,
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, it's definitely a place to where we could improve, and starting with our children is a great spot, just simply because it's who's going to be leading the way here before long.
Yeah, it's frustrating, especially these days when all we're hearing is COVID, but really childhood obesity and obesity in general is is, in my opinion, one of the things that's making COVID so bad, and also killing far more people than
Absolutely.
what have been killed right now, which, I mean, it's all sad and it's all tragic, but
Yeah.
It's sad that we don't have public information,
The same
or
urgency.
public awareness. Yes, the same urgency for something that is has been a killer for so long, Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. I've never thought about it like
that. Step off my soapbox now.
I completely agree. I've never thought about it in that sense of, how many people it has killed and has given diabetes and heart problems and all these other problems too, that we just keep cycling it in, and now that something new has come along, it's like, let's forget about that, and that was never really an issue, but this is now an issue. But
I know, and my dad passed when he was 55, so gosh, I was 23 at the time, and so much information out there these days that I wish had been around when he was going through the struggles that he faced. And it's frustrating, but we just continue to learn, right?
That's it. You can hopefully try to spread as much good information as you can around. It's kind of what the goal of this whole thing's about.
Yeah.
So do you have any kind of goals set for the remainder of the year? I mean, you said you have a competition coming up here pretty soon. Is that one of your major goals, or is there something else?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's 2020 has been definitely a roller coaster and a change at every corner, right? So I was supposed to compete in June. That show, of course, got postponed until October. And then again postponed another week later and moved to an entirely new state. So
oh, wow.
I knew I was no longer competing in that particular show So, my coach and I found a different show that actually is only a couple hours from my house, which is nice. I don't have to travel really so much anywhere for it. And it's, still in October. And so we've kind of got our sights set on that. That's only 4 weeks out. And meanwhile, in this whole process, I've come to find out that NBC guidelines have changed and regulations have changed regarding how you nationally qualify. And anybody who now competed in 2019, when you competed in open, if you placed first or second, that means you were nationally qualified, so you could go compete in a national show and try to earn a pro card, which for anybody who doesn't know, once you earn your pro card, you can compete at the professional level. It's the IFBB level, and you can actually, win prize money. So if you compete in pro shows, which is, earning money for doing what you love is always something good. Something nice to aspire to if you should be lucky enough or, put in the time and dedication enough to earn that. But I learned since NPC changed their rules that now anybody who placed top 5 last year is nationally qualified. Wow. And so I thought, oh, well, that's interesting, because my goal this year was to hopefully compete to finish first or second to be nationally qualified for next year. As it turns out, I'm nationally qualified for this year. Wow. So, now does that mean that I'm, ready to and thinking that I'm going to earn my pro card this year? No. But there is a master show that I've had my eyes, set on. And I was thinking that I would hopefully qualify for it next year. It's in December here in California. One of the shows is here in California. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just do it this year since I can.
Yeah.
And just gain the experience. I'm going into it with an open mind, knowing that I likely need more muscle mass to be competitive. But just going in with an open mind, thinking I want to just get some feedback. I want to see what it's like to be on the national stage,
Yeah.
Just earn some experience.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool opportunity.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working for. This show in October, I'm hoping that I'll place well, and, seeing what the judge feedback is on a new look that I'll bring to stage, and, kind of just tweak and hone from there and go gung-ho into December and see what that brings. So
yeah, that is really...
I've got some major goals this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really cool place to be when you're so young into doing it,
Yeah.
That you can potentially be on that level, on that stage would be really cool.
I know, and it's funny. I went into this thinking, oh, Masters, that'll be easier because I'm not competing with the 20-somethings. So Masters is anything basically 35 and above. So for us older gals, but it's complete opposite. You are at such a level now that most of these women that you're competing with have been doing this for years and years. Right. So I'm actually at a disadvantage being so new to it. Right. But I haven't been, in this world, in this bodybuilding world I'm not seasoned. So it's a whole nother challenge, and it's not easy by any means.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're going in there with people that have that much experience, that much, not just competition experience, but experience working on their bodies and shaping their bodies as well.
Yeah.
But just cool overall, just to have that opportunity and that experience, regardless of how it turns out, it's just a cool life experience.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be interesting to see, it sounds terrible, but I don't have high expectations, and maybe my mindset will change as I get closer to the show. But I'm just, like I said, I'm going in with an open mind.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of how you have to go into every show, though, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it's a very subjective thing, and keeping an open
Mm-hmm.
mind will allow you to get those results and that feedback with a more positive attitude. What's your
Mm-hmm.
advice for those kind of people who want to start working out, who want to start living a healthier lifestyle?
One of my favorite sayings is, "How do you eat an elephant?"
How do you eat an elephant?
Well, one bite at a time.
That's it, I guess. I never thought about that before.
I mean, you've got you can't focus on, well, I want to be, if let's just say hypothetically, you've got, somebody who's 140 pounds and they want to be 120. You can't think, oh, if only my body looked like this ideal 120. You can't focus on the big picture so much. I mean, I know some people say it's better to focus on the big picture, but for me, I would say take it one small step at a time. And, you'll get there. If you just continue to focus day in and day out on one small aspect, maybe you're learning a little bit more about nutrition this day, or maybe you're spending, a few more minutes in the gym this day. You've got to take baby steps. Did you ever see that movie, What About Bob? It's a pretty old movie now.
Yes, actually,
but
I
it was
have.
all about. I'm surprised. It's actually one of their things is baby steps.
Right. Yeah.
So, and if you haven't seen the movie, you need to go watch it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's another book that I just read by James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. And I like his advice at one part of the book where he's like, if you find it a struggle to go into the gym and spend half an hour or an hour training in there, and it's intimidating or it's something daunting, the hardest part is going. The hardest part is actually getting yourself to the gym. So go to the gym and set a timer for 3 minutes. Literally spend 3 minutes in there.
Huh.
And then once that 3 minutes is up, make yourself leave. And then the next day, maybe spend 4 minutes. And by the time you've worked your way up, don't set the timer anymore.
Yeah.
Stay for as long as you feel comfortable. And it's really just getting over that intimidation factor, or maybe on the nutrition side, track your lunch for the day. And then before you know it, you're tracking 3 meals for the day.
Right.
I mean, it's just really taking a small step approach to it and not getting intimidated by the big picture.
Yeah. Like you said, a lot of people getting there is the hardest part. And
right.
If you do set that 3-minute alarm or whatever, once that goes off, you might be feeling it. You might be ready to go. You might be, hey, let's do this. But just getting there, I think the mental block of starting is actually one of the hardest parts. And
yes, it is. It is. And I think that the other aspect too is, and this is especially for women who are my age, who are maybe just starting out or maybe feel intimidated, or the best thing women my age can do is get into the weight room. And that is very intimidating because I can look around most days and I'm probably one of the only girls in there. And it's a little scary because maybe you don't know exactly what you're doing, but you want to. Weightlifting is so important for anybody really, but for especially women my age, when they may be thinking cardio is the way to go, especially if they want to lose weight. But building muscle is what you want to continue to do and try to do, because that's actually going to burn more fat over the long run than doing any cardio.
Absolutely.
So just go in there, put your blinders on. Don't worry about who's looking at you. Don't worry about what people are thinking. Pick up your weights, whatever weight you need to start, whether it's 5 pound, the 10 pound, whatever makes you comfortable, and just start doing some curls or doing some, flies or something. Just start.
Yep.
Just start and spend 3 minutes and then leave.
That's it. Just do something. Get in there and do something.
Yeah.
I think that's good for anybody. You know, you said for women around your age, but I think that's good advice for anybody, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds so cliche, but just start somewhere and just make a commitment to yourself that you're going to just start every day.
Yep.
You know, you don't just, it's like the kids that go to their first day of school and they're like, oh, I have to go back tomorrow. Yeah. You kind of have to make it a habit.
This is a thing that's going to last a while.
Right.
That was a really good way to finish off the podcast for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story and sharing a little bit about you. Got a little personal there, which was a nice kind of personal touch with personal feel to it. I know some people aren't comfortable opening up and coming on, and that's okay. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but definitely appreciate.
Yeah, I think the older I get, the less I really care about what, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
The less you care about what other people think, and
yep.
I think that it's freeing. You know,
yeah, it's
freeing
a good way to feel.
Be yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming on.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Have a great day.
You too. Yeah, same stuff as always. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Apple Podcast. Leave us a review, a rating. We're always looking for some good feedback. And definitely some stars. You know, just send your stars our way. Even if it's a 1 star, we just like to get the feedback. We're pretty much everywhere these days when it comes to podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can check out the podcast on YouTube. We're going to do more and more with video. We're not quite there yet, but we're going to be there. And we hope you're there with us. So stay tuned for more episodes. And this is it for this one. See you next time.